Welcome back. Let's put this in the ether. You know what's wrong? What I find not wrong, but I find like how is person that is a believer, right? They can't they can't ground themselves in reality, right? I just want to say that you could be a believer in God, right? Believer in God, but yet you can still also be grounded in reality, right? Some people out there they're a believer in God, but for some reason they can't be grounded in reality, right? For example, they believe that the marriage system that we're in right now is that is bounded by God, right? The system that we're in, the marriage system, the sanctity of marriage, right? In reality, it's not bounded by God. It's not. We want to believe that, right? We were raised up with that. It was bounded by God back in what 100 years ago, prior to the marriage license certificate, before when the government issue it, right? Before we recognize that the sanctity of marriage was a pact between you, your spouse, and a God. That's why back in the days, that's why traditional marriage back in the days doesn't necessarily mean people are divorcing left and right like it is today. But now, ever since they introduced no fault divorces, ever since the government are entrenched in the marriage ceremony by saying that your marriage is not a legal binding contract unless you get a marriage contract, which was introduced in the 1920s, right? Then the whole thing just went out the table. This is when people need to recognize. As soon as that happened, right? As soon as that happened, you got to realize that as soon as the government is involved with marriages, now it's not entrenched in God anymore, because as soon as you marriage with the government, get the marriage license, right, and want the state to recognize your marriage, that's null and void. That God is not involved in that no more, right? Because the government cannot have God intervene with the practice of marriage. Because they totally reinvented that marriage, the concept, right? This is why it's crucial. You want to be a man of God? If you're a truly person of God and want to marry, right? Right? You have to make a pact with God and not get a government license. It's two different entities, right? There's two different entities between a traditional marriage and a modern day marriage. A modern day marriage is getting a contract with the government. That's a modern day marriage, right? A traditional marriage is basically getting married with God, that you do not need a marriage license, right? Because of that, you have to understand that you have to be grounded when you get married these days. You got to be grounded and accept the thing that's running right now is the way it is. That modern day marriage is not a pact between God, right? Because there's no way in the Bible, right? Nowhere in the rule of modern day marriage where the Bible is mentioned. It's going by their own set of rules, right? But you could also be a person of religion, person of faith, right, and still be grounded to earth, right? You have to understand, if you want to be married these days, you have to understand that, okay, I want to be married, but yet again, I want the government to understand that we are married. So you have to suck it up and understand that you have to make a pact with the government instead, right? I'm a man of faith, so I'm not going to make a pact with the government, right? Because I understand what entails, what comes with the contract of marriage license. That means I will be screwed over if I make a pact with the government. Now, I'm a man of faith, so I'm more believing in God than I am with the government. So if I were to get married again, I'm married with God. I'm not going to sign a government contract. I'm going to tell my spouse that too. Like, if you want to get married, right, you have to understand the consequences of getting married, the consequences of we could get screwed over if we married with the government, and the sacrifice we have to make by not taking some kind of benefits, not making a pact with the government. The government will. The reason why people want to marry with the government because of its benefits that it entice the couple, right? If you want to get married, you make sure your spouse is on the same page as you, right? When you understand how marriage license work, now you are more down grounded to earth to see how the world works. See how the world works and how misleading the marriage contract is. If you understand how misleading the marriage contract is with the government, you're more grounded to earth. So you have to find a spouse that share the same beliefs as you. They have to be grounded to earth the same way you are. You have to understand that if you make a deal with the government, it's like making a deal with the devil, right? There's some kind of benefits you have, and some kind of benefits you cannot have, right? You have to be grounded to earth. You have to understand these are the consequences you're willing to take if you sign a contract with the government, right? So if you're a person of faith, you could be a person of faith and still hold the traditional value if you do not include the government in your relationships, right? You don't do that. You don't include the government in a relationship if you're a person of faith. You want to be a person of faith and still grounded to earth, because you're more grounded to earth. You're more grounded to earth, in my point of view, if you know what the actual origin of the marriage license is, the marriage certificate, and where it came from, how it's used to implement destruction in the family, how it's used to manipulate people, how people are manipulated into getting a marriage contract, due to tax breaks and medical benefits and school system, right? That's what it is. That's what I mean when you have to be more grounded to earth if you want to get married, right? You have to be more grounded to earth. You could be grounded to earth and have faith, right? Because you don't depend on these elements. You don't depend on the government, right? Because you know the truth behind these marriage licenses. And because you know the truth, because you are capable of understanding the truth of this marriage license, you find a partner that share the same beliefs as you. You educate her. You educate her. This is why I don't believe in marriage. I'm willing to marry you, but if you want me to marry you, you have to understand this is the flawed system that it teaches. This is what people don't understand about the real cost of marriage. And she had to reciprocate with you. She had to understand and agree with you. If she don't understand and agree with you, you shouldn't be marrying her, right? She should understand the truth about this marriage contract. If she don't understand the truth about this marriage contract, you have no business marrying her, right? Men, if you want to marry because God tell you so, right? You should find a partner who shares the same belief, that she's willing to forego all these benefits that the government trick people in getting. Right? If she's not willing to forego all these benefits, right? You shouldn't be married her at all. Right? So there's nowhere in the Bible to say you have to get a marriage contract. You can still get married, but you don't have to get the marriage contract. You're more ground to earth. You understand the world more if you married each other with God instead of this marriage contract. But unfortunately, because how the world works like this right now, the marriage laws also depends on what state you live in. Some state, they can screw you over, right? For some reason, the state will find a way to get in between you and your personal life by saying, oh, because you guys spend a certain amount of time living together, you automatically considered as a married couple, right? So some women, they get sneaky. They will try to sue you or try to say, oh, we are a couple because we live together. That's why I don't like cohabitations, right? When cohabitation happens, they can still claim that you guys are married couples, right? But that's a different story, right? This is really another semantics. We could talk about semantics later, but I'm telling you, if you want to get married, after the fact that whatever I told you, right? If you still want to get married and still want to be grounded to earth, you have to understand. You have to understand the marriage law and how the marriage law work, right? There's ways of getting through this, right? There's ways to still make a pact with God and still be married to each other. That's if you want to get married. But who to say that you need a marriage contract to stay married? Who to say that, right? Like the Bible, if you want to be faithful of God, be faithful to the Bible, stay true to the Bible, right? You do not need a marriage contract, right? That's if you want to screw yourself over. You want to screw yourself over, get a marriage contract, right? Be bamboozled with society. Be bamboozled how the world works, right? But, you don't need if you want to be grounded to earth, you have to be more grounded to earth. You have to see the real. I see some guys is very faithful. he believed that God, he get a marriage contract. He believed that God will take care of him. Yeah, you can believe all you want, right? I'm not saying not to believe in God, right? Not to believe in God, but the marriage system, they have their own rules. They're not going according to the Bible, right? You better hope your spouse are in the same agreement as you, right? Because the Bible, it is what it is, right? The Bible cannot interfere with the state decides, right? The state rules. They don't go. They don't look at the Bible. Oh, the Bible said this, therefore I'm on your side. Oh, the Bible said this. No, they make their own set of rules. You have to understand, right? You have to be grounded to earth. You have to be grounded to earth and understand a set of rules that the Bible teaches is not the same the set of rules that the marriage, the family court abide. They have their own set of rules, and you have to be grounded. You have to be understanding. You have to be realistic, right? You have to be realistic in this kind of stuff. You can't be naive, right? You can't expect the court follow the Bible because there's nowhere in the rule book of their rule book, right, that they have to go according to the Bible. They don't. They go according to their own rules, right? And you have to realize this. You have to accept this, right? And you really want to devote your time to God, right? Really devote your time to God. The best option is to marry to God, and not the. Don't get the government involved. Don't get a marriage license. It's a total shit. It's a total bamboozle. It's a total sham. It's not there to hold the sanctity of marriage. Why, if it holds the sanctity of marriage, why all of a sudden the same couple could marry, right? I have no problem with same couple marriage. I mean, you want to be miserable, go ahead and be miserable like the rest of us, right? But the thing is, because it allowed sanctity and it allowed the same couple, same-sex couple to marry, that's how you know that there's nothing holy about state marriages. There's nothing holy about the marriage license. The marriage license is not holy. It's not a holy thing, all right? So you have to look at that perspective. Just because you got a state marriage doesn't mean you're a holy person. Just because you got a marriage certificate, that doesn't mean you're a holy person, right? It means that you're just a sucker for the system. You just signing up for your own demise, basically. You just allow the government to get more intrusive in your life. That's what it means, right? So you have to know how the court system works, right? So you could still be a person of faith and get married and be grounded to earth at the same time. You gotta be grounded. Some people out there, man. Some people of faith that I've seen out there. I mean, they some are really whack jobs out there, right? They're really whack jobs, right? But there are some of them out there who are grounded to earth and know how things work, and they still follow their faith. They still have trust in God, right? But there's some people out there who say they follow the God teaching, but yet again they're totally delusional on what the reality is. You have to be realistic, right? You can be realistic and believer of faith at the same time, right? But there are some people out there who are person of faith, but yet again they're unrealistic. They believe the court system can have their back. No, you have to be realistic. You have to be realistic and understand that the court system is an entity and it still screw you over. It can still backstab you. Right? You have to be realistic that your spouses that you're divorcing with still have the power and capability to file for divorce against you. Right? You have to be realistic. You have to be grounded to earth. That's what I mean when grounded to earth. You have to be realistic in things. The court system is not going to go with the Bible. Right? There's nothing there's nothing in the rule book where they have to follow the Bible. Right? And that's what men need to understand. You need to be grounded to earth. See, the system is not working in your favor, right? But on that note, I hope you know what I'm trying to say. I hope you know what I'm trying to convey, that you could also be faithful and be grounded to earth at the same time, meaning that you still understand that the court system can screw you over, and the court system have to abide by their rules and not abide by the Bible. If you would understand this, you would understand that you can still be faithful and grounded to earth at the same time. But on that note, guys, let me know if you agree and disagree. Let me know if I conveyed my message clearly enough for you to understand. Right? all these things, leave a comment below. And on that note, guys, thanks for listening, and peace and blessing. You guys have a good day.